So today I'm going to be making, so this is potato starch, Bob's Red Mill, and I was reading the package, and I noticed a recipe on the back, and it's for our favorite white bread. I guess it's a gluten-free white bread. So it calls for 3 eggs, vinegar, canola oil, water, white rice flour, potato starch, tapioca flour, cornstarch, xanthan gum, sugar, salt, egg replacer, and milk powder or non-fat dry milk, and active yeast. So we all know that I'm vegan, and I'm going to make this a vegan recipe as much as I can. So I'm going to try this recipe with you today. And also, sorry for the background noise. I'm watching the episode of Modern Family that was on last night. I missed it because I was watching The Masked Singer. But, so that's what's in the background. Alright. I'm going to do the first step, which is to combine all the liquid ingredients. And I'm not using a bread machine. See, this is for making it with a bread maker. I don't have a bread maker. I'm just going to try and make it without using the bread maker. So it says, combine all liquid ingredients and pour carefully into your bread machine, baking pan. Mix together dry ingredients, add to baking pan. Carefully set pan and bread maker. You know what? I'm just going to try and mix all of the ingredients together. And knead the dough and let it rise. And put it into the oven. And try and make it that way. So let's just try this out. Okay, so I'm hopping on here to show you how I do my egg replacer. So instead of eggs, this is what I use. So some people use chia seeds, some people use applesauce, some people use an egg replacer. I know Bob's Red Mill has a good egg replacer. But for me, this is what I have in house. So I'm using milled flax seeds, which is pretty much just ground flaxseed. And so I take 3 tablespoons, because my recipe called for 3 eggs. So 1 tablespoon would equal 1 egg, and so on. So I'm using 3 tablespoons in my recipe. And then we add it with water. So for each tablespoon of flaxseed, you use 3 tablespoons of water. So it's 3 to 1. So I have 3 eggs, 3 egg replacers, so I would need 9 tablespoons of water. So I just wanted to hop on and show you how I do my egg replacer. And you can use this in many recipes to replace the egg. Okay. So this is the egg replacer, and this is what it looks like right now. I mixed in the water, and I'm going to wait about 10 minutes to let it thicken to get to an egg-like consistency. So I just want to hop back on and say that it's telling me to add all my ingredients. So this is for the bread machine, but I'm not going to do it as a bread machine. I'm just going to do it as an oven recipe. So it's telling me to add all my wet ingredients first, and it says 1.5 cups of water. So I'm going to make that like a lukewarm water, and I'm going to add the active dry yeast to the water and let it foam for about 5 minutes, because that's what I would normally do in a bread recipe. So I'm just going to go by that. So I'm going to do that now and then continue on. Okay, so this is the lukewarm water and the packet of yeast. So it's been sitting up for about 10 minutes while I got the dry ingredients all measured out in a bowl. And I'm going to pour it into the wet ingredients and then pour the dry ingredients into the wet. This is the dry ingredients, and I'm going to put the recipe in the description box below of what I used for measurements. But basically I used rice flour, I used brown rice flour, potato starch, and I used granulated sugar. I also used xanthan gum. I just don't know where the little packet is that I just had of xanthan gum, but I used xanthan gum, and I used salt, and I believe that was all I put in here so far. Oh, and cornstarch. Okay, so that's my dry ingredients. Okay, so I want to just say that this took a lot of work to make it into this ball of a bread dough. So I would say I had about half of this bag of rice flour left, and I used up the rest of it because it was a very wet dough. And I also added a little bit of the brown rice flour. I didn't add much, maybe like a cup or half a cup extra as I was kneading the dough. I decided to knead the dough and try it without dough hook attachment, and I just put it on a floured surface, and I am not gonna lie, that it was a mess. It was just a big sticky all over my hands, but I didn't want to give up, and I wanted to keep trying, and this is what came about. So I'm gonna let it rise in a warm place, so probably on the back of my stove again. I'll preheat the oven to the lowest temperature, put it on the top of my stove. It'll be a warm area, and then I will come back and show you after what it looks like. So I have my dough in oil bowl with plastic wrap around it, and I have the oven preheating to 170, that's the lowest temperature, and I'm going to leave it up here on the stove for about 1 to 2 hours till it doubles in size. Fingers crossed that it actually works. Alright, so I made my dough into a loaf shape, and I put it into a loaf pan, and I'm going to let it rise for another hour, an hour and a half, and then I will bake it off. Hello everyone, I wanted to hop on here and tell you about my bread. So I made 2 different recipes. I made the gluten-free bread, the white bread, and I made the granola bread. I baked them off, and before I forgot all about doing a video, I got totally distracted and forgot to video the last part of them coming out of the oven. But they came out pretty good, and I think the recipes worked out okay, and I put them in the freezer and froze the bread so that we would have extra bread when we're in quarantine and stuff like that, or if we're in lockdown, which hasn't happened yet, but this coronavirus is wiping out the breads at the stores, so I got extra on hand. I want you all to keep up to date on my videos. I'm going to be posting more, and I'm going to have more videos out in the coming days and weeks, and my YouTube channel will be filled each day probably with a new video of Bake with Sarah, the vegan way. And so if you want to like and subscribe to my channel, then you get all the notifications of when I'm posting and my new videos, and maybe you have the ingredients on hand while you're stuck at home and you can make your own, or you can bake along with me. So just give me a thumbs up, like, subscribe, and share my video, and I hope everyone has a good rest of their day. Alright, thank you.